Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's Get to Know Your Customers Day, Tony. What's the one thing you'd like to know about our customers?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Their credit card numbers, like to know that. Like to
You want to commit them to memory? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to get away with here?
No, I'm going to try to write them down, and then I'm going to start charging things to them. I mean, they're watching. I mean, they can pay us in kind.
You know,
they can send a big box of that.
They suppose they want to pay in cash.
No. Going to use their numbers.
Straight
Welcome
cash.
to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Astros beat the Yankees. Zion scores 25, and Steve Young joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Padres evening the NLCS with the Phillies last night, winning 8-5 on the strength of a 5-run fifth inning where they got 6 hits and chased Aaron Nola and the utterly ineffective Brad Hand. Wilbon, how should each team feel after this game?
Like they're in a series, which baseball teams are accustomed to being, and there's back and forth, a lot of back and forth. I didn't think anybody was going to win this thing in a sweep, Tony. I think that they have to think they're engaged in a long series. Maybe it won't go 6 or 7, but they have to approach it that way. And I will say this, Tony, you know, so I'm here in New York and I'm doing countdown and I'm sitting with basketball heads by and large with Jalen and Stephen A. and Greeny. But, you know, we're all old enough to have grown up with baseball. And you look up there and you see it's 4-0 and you start to check into something else. And then it's not 4-0, it's 4-2, and then the Padres are coming back and the Padres have control. That game took forever. It took 4 hours, like a college football game. But this is the ebb and flow of today's baseball, at least until there's a pitch clock next year. So now it's a long game, it's a long series.
Yeah, so normally, if you're the road team, as the Phillies were for the first 2 games in San Diego, and you get one of those games, you're happy. You go home and you go, we stole one, we're in good shape, we're going home. I don't think that's true because of last night. You mentioned that it was 4-0 at one point.
Yeah.
Here is the record of teams that were up 4-0 in the playoffs of all time. Up 4-0 at some point in the game. 268-12. After that inning, after the 5th inning, I texted a bunch of people, including my son, and I said, I think this is Waterloo. I think this has changed the entire series. I don't think the Phillies are going to win now. Aaron Nola couldn't get a 3rd out. Brad Hand couldn't get any outs. Faced 3 batters, hit 1, and gave up run-scoring hits 2 in a row, and they said, good night, drive home safely. Mike, I think when the Phillies got home, they felt empty. That's a bad loss. Bad loss.
Tony, it's a bad loss, I'll give you that. But we've seen some crazy stuff already this postseason. That Toronto Mariners game, I mean, we've seen some weird things. The entire Padres-Dodgers series, to me, it was just one weird moment after another. So I don't know. This is where I don't want to get predictive. I just kind of want to watch and enjoy.
And by the way,
this will be a long series. I hope
lots of praise to the most expensive guys out there. The money was well spent on Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. They're coming through.
Been coming through. And it's, your boy Bryce Harper.
Yes, he is.
Let's move to the American League, where the Astros beat the Yankees in Game 1. Justin Verlander struck out 11, surrendered 1 run over 6. The Yankees struck out 17 times overall, Tone. They send Luis Severino to the mound against Framber Valdez in Game 2 tonight. So, Tony, down 1-0 already. How important is it for the Yanks to win tonight?
So my first inclination is to say that it is critical, because you do not want to be down 2-0 and have to win 4 out of 5. You don't want to put that pressure on your starting pitcher in Game 3, who will be Garrett Cole. But, Mike, after watching that game last night, I think the Astros are significantly better than the Yankees.
Yeah.
I don't know that it matters if the Yankees win Game 2. I think the Astros are going to win the series. Let me review this. As you mentioned, the Yankees struck out 17 times. The Astros struck out 2 times. The bottom of the Yankee order, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, struck out 13 times. Josh Donaldson and Matt Carpenter struck out 7 times. They had Justin Verlander wobbly in the first 3 innings. He had either given up a run or there were men on base. And then all of a sudden, he settled down. Mike, he threw 66 pitches in the first 3 innings. He settles down. The next thing you know, he struck out 11, and he's in total command. My position here is that the Yankees had a chance in this game, and they did not take advantage of it.
No, they didn't. But, Tony, we often see that from Verlander. I mean, if you don't get him early, if he settles himself down and he can get through 2+ or the third inning, then you're in trouble. And that was the case last night. We've been watching this for 20 years with Justin Verlander. Kind of reminds me of Roger Clemens in some ways. I don't know if Clemens got knocked out that early all the time. But I think the Yankees don't have to win. I think they play differently, and the result is often different. They're a big, home team, the Yankees are, in that ballpark, Tony. And the series has, of course, yet to switch. I don't think they have to.
That's right.
I don't think the Yankees are going to win this series either. Like you, I think the Astros are demonstrably better. But, the Yankees can be down 0-2 and still come back and win the series. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I don't think it hinges
One
on
small
tonight.
statistic.
What?
They're not going to beat the Astros bullpen. Here's the Astros bullpen in the playoffs so far. 23 1/3 innings, 29 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, ERA 0.77. They're going to have to beat the starters.
Unlikely.
That's the way they're going to have
Get
to
to
do
them
it.
early. Knock them out.
The NBA continued to roll out its opening games last night. Zion Williamson scored 25 as New Orleans beat Brooklyn. Ben Simmons, wait for it, had 6 fouls and 4 points in his Brooklyn debut. Number 1 draft pick Paolo Banchero had 27 points for Orlando. That's the most points by an overall number 1 pick in his debut since Allen Iverson 26 years ago. Donovan Mitchell scored 31 for his new team, Cleveland. Rudy Gobert had 23 and 16 for his new team, Minnesota. And DeMar DeRozan had 37 for your team, the Bulls.
Yes, sir.
Wilbon, what made the biggest impression on you? You can choose one of these or you can pick your own.
Well, I'm going to go to a write-in candidate, Tone. I'm glad you didn't mention, and that is, and I got a bias here, the Phoenix Suns looking like they were going to get knocked out again. It looked like Ali Liston, but they were going to be Liston and counted out again in a second straight game against Dallas, right, in Phoenix. And I know this wasn't Game 7 in Phoenix back in May. I get that. But, Tone, you hadn't seen a smile out of the Suns since earlier in May. That's a lot of months ago. So this is an important victory to me. Also, the Brooklyn Nets, who I know you're fascinated with, getting just knocked out. Speaking of knocked out, I mean, they were down 25 in that game. And so the whole effect of that, not just Ben Simmons. And, Tony, I know how much you root for Zion. You know when you woke up this morning and saw that clip and Zion was smiling broadly and he had his way in that game, I know that made an impression on you and it made an impression on me too.
It did.
And I hope that continues.
No,
he's so charismatic. He's so much fun to watch.
That's the right word. He actually is a charismatic player. He's got a great smile, a great demeanor. I'm just saying that at some point he's going to fall on the ground, his leg is going to break, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season. And I love him.
We don't want that.
I will concentrate a little bit on Ben Simmons, who had nothing. Nothing. He had 2 foul shots. He missed them both. He made 2 of his 3 shots from the floor, but he only took 3 in 23 minutes. I mean, honestly, he played like somebody where if this was the NFL and cut down day, they would say to him today, son, hand in your playbook because you're out of here. Now, I know the Nets are going to be supportive. Management is. But I don't think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are going to be supportive of a whole bunch of games like that. And the other thing I would mention quickly is Rudy Gobert. They gave up 5 number 1s for Rudy Gobert. Minnesota must think that Rudy Gobert is Moses and going to lead them out of the desert. They beat a bad team, but they won that game, and 23-16 is a big deal. Let's take a break. Coming up, how much of Aaron Rodgers' issues are on him to solve? We're going to ask Steve Young.
We're also going to ask him why Lamar Jackson struggles in the fourth quarter after things often go really well the first 3. My man DeMar DeRozan didn't have Zach LaVine, didn't have his tag team partner, and he was great last night. He was
LeBron didn't score as many points as Banchero in his first game. Dwight Howard
just too few.
Week 7 of the NFL season kicks off tonight, which makes it a perfect time for a visit from our great friend, a man who fell back on football because he found sports writing too intimidating. Hall of Fame quarterback, Steve Young. Steve, we will start with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers does not appear to be clicking on the long pass downfield. Fingers get pointed at his receivers and at the offensive line, even at the front office for the way they've constituted the team, but how much of this is the quarterback's responsibility?
Well, in the end, Tony, a great quarterback will take all of the responsibility. It's part of the job description to remain accountable. That's how you draw people to you. Even though people know that it's receivers that can't separate, and they know that the offensive line is not doing the job, and they know the front office hasn't supported the Hall of Fame quarterback the way they should. We get that. But in the end, despite all the mitigating factors, it ends up the ball's in your hands and it's not getting done. So great quarterbacks, and I know Aaron has done that. Tom Brady does that famously. Look, I draw people to me by telling them I'm accountable. And in the end, it is Aaron's fault, but I can tell you that it's not because you said it, receivers can't separate, the offensive line's not blocking for them, and in football, you need a lot of friends.
All right, we'll stay with another quarterback who's had some struggles too, Steve, and that would be Lamar Jackson, whose struggles have come late in games in the fourth quarter. It seems like for 3 quarters, things are working really well, typical of him. And the fourth quarter, some things have fallen apart. Why? What's the change? What's going on there?
Well, for years, the Ravens have been bullies, defensive bullies, and then they have had the most sophisticated running game in history, you could say, and especially in the last few years with Lamar. I mean, they've just been pounding teams into submission. And all of a sudden, and then of all the things that they're not getting done is end of game with leads, being able to run the football on those 9-minute drives that Lamar Jackson would just spit out with no problem. And they've lost that bully effect on defense. So of all the things that happened last week, the New York Giants, they out-Ravened the Ravens. They bullied the Ravens. So that's where the most concern I would have is the things that you were best at in the league, you're not doing anymore, and that's a concern.
We'll stay with quarterbacks. This makes Tony very happy that we're only talking about quarterbacks with you, Steve. Tom Brady, as we've all talked about all week, chewed out his offensive lineman on camera last week. And instead of said this week, it might look weird on TV, but that's football. We all love that from him. All right. Is that the truth? I mean, I don't remember ever seeing you do that publicly in all those years. So what are we hearing and what's the truth and what isn't?
All right, so I just mentioned Tom Brady earlier when talking about Aaron Rodgers. The great quarterbacks understand the fundamental fact that you are always speaking to your linemen. In the media, in practice, at home, like you are always speaking to your linemen. And what you're speaking to them is, I have your back, no matter what. You take care of me, I've got your back. And so when Tom does that in public, there must be something big going on because nobody likes to be embarrassed on national TV, especially the linemen that need to go fight for you. And that's why it's so unusual. So there either was exigent circumstances that Tom felt like, hey, look, I've been around here for 23 years and I know what's going to happen if I do this on national TV, but it's got to happen now. Fine. And maybe that's what the lineman's responding to is like, that was appropriate. But other than that, you got to be super careful how you do things in public. Again, when all you do is speak to your offensive linemen, you're going to show them up on national TV. Super careful in those moments, Michael.
All right, so follow up quickly, Steve. Did you have one of those? Can you remember a time when you had to go off script, off road, and do something that urgent?
Not necessarily on the bench like that because that's a sacred spot. And those linemen have been out there fighting. They're usually sitting there trying to get a break. And to me, that's why it has to be exigent circumstances. It's got to be something super vital and super important that you need to get across. But I think Tom has done it for 23 years. Like all of us that were pretty good at it, we have a lot of different ways to communicate. And the last way we like to communicate is to point people in the finger on national TV and scream at them. That's the last way you want to do it.
We will get you out of here on this, and it's about coaching and play calling. The Saints tonight are playing the Cardinals. Arizona coach Cliff Kingsbury says he is willing to give up play calling if that will help his team score points. When you were a quarterback, how much of your success had to do with play calling?
Tony, play calling, people don't understand. When I say there's elite quarterbacks, there are equally number of elite play callers, which means not many. And when you see them, you go, why? What's the big deal? And it's just they have a sense. First of all, they have a plan. Then they enact the plan and have the guts to make the calls. And then they have a sense of how to put plays together in combination. And if they have a quarterback that can work that out with them, it accentuates great play calling. And so if Cliff Kingsbury wants to give up play, that's not the problem with the Cardinals. The problem with the Cardinals, they're not running the plays that he's calling. It's always the wing it play after the play. It seems like it's the play in the huddle that they're doing, and the wing it offense doesn't make it in the NFL over time. Yeah, you can have big games, big comebacks, but in the end, the wing it offense doesn't work. So look, whoever's calling plays, just listen to the call of the play and run it just once, and stop the wing it offense. That's the problem.
That's great. That's
a good thing to learn. Don't wing it, kids.
Yeah, don't
Steve
wing
Young
it.
says don't wing it.
Wing it.
Thank you, Steve, as always. Thank you, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you, Steve.
You can catch more of Steve on Monday Night Countdown this week featuring Wilbon's Bears and the Patriots.
Yeah.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Patriots reportedly decide between Mac Jones and Bailey Zippy Zappy.
And what should we expect from the new look Clippers tonight? Tony, we tell our producers all the time we're going to wing it. Huh? We've been winging it for 20 years. I guess it doesn't.
Happy 22nd birthday, Kenneth Walker III. The rookie running back on Seattle got the chance to start last week after Rashad Penny fractured his fibula. Walker made the most of the opportunity, rushing 21 times for 97 yards and a touchdown as the Seahawks beat Arizona. Walker started out at Wake Forest, then transferred to Michigan State, where he was an All-American, rushed 263 times for 1,636 yards and 18 touchdowns. When the Spartans gave Mel Tucker a $95 million coaching contract, I hope he threw a bone to Walker. Walker was the second running back taken in this year's draft. He went number 41. 5 picks after the Jets took Breece Hall, who was already their leading rusher.
Tony, remember the day when kids were that productive in college at running back? They didn't go in the second round. They didn't last till the end. They didn't go 20th. They went 1, or maybe they went 3 or 5, but they were off the board, baby. The game has changed, and I don't know if I like all of it. I like running backs to watch them still.
Happy anniversary, Johnny Damon. On this day 18 years ago, Damon highlighted the most improbable comeback in baseball postseason history, hitting both a grand slam and a 2-run homer as the Red Sox won Game 7 and beat the Yankees in the ALCS after being down 3-0. The Red Sox became the first team in baseball history to do that. Damon then did the unthinkable. He left the Red Sox for the Yankees. Oh, the pain. Damon was a fine center fielder in both cities, 284 batting average, 235 homers, 1,139 RBI, and 408 stolen bases. Damon has 2 World Series rings, one with the 2004 Red Sox, one with the 2009 Yankees.
Tony, we always frame the discussion of this game in just baseball terms, and that's understandable. But I'm going to ask you this. Is this, in your mind, the greatest comeback in American sports history? Is there anything else up there you have higher or equal to the Red Sox coming back from down 3-0 to beat the Yankees?
No, it's not one game. It's over the course of 7 games. You had to win 4 in a row. No, this is the greatest comeback.
Too.
I mean, you can't compare a whole series
King
to a
of
game.
comebacks.
I don't.
King comeback.
Yeah. A melancholy trails to Charlie Trippy, the legendary member of both the College and Pro Football Halls of Fame, died yesterday at 100 years old. Trippy was runner-up to Glenn Davis for the Heisman in 1946, then went on to lead the Chicago Cardinals to the NFL title in 1947. Trippy is the only member of the Pro Football Hall to have 1,000 yards rushing, passing, and receiving in his career. Trippy played multiple positions on offense, defense, and special teams, including punting. And he explained his versatile skill set saying, quote, "In those days, the more things a player did, the more pay he could command," unquote. Trippy was the overall #1 pick in the draft out of Georgia, led the Cardinals to the NFL title in his rookie season, scoring 2 touchdowns in a championship game victory over the Philadelphia Eagles 75 years ago. Man. The Cardinals have moved twice since then. They have not won another title.
What a great, great, great player. And it's too bad he's forgotten, but he's not forgotten here by a couple of other old guys. Cheers to Charlie Trippy in his career and his life.
Let's go to the big finish. The Athletic reports that when Mac Jones is healthy, he will start for the Patriots. Are you surprised?
Maybe, but let's see what actually happens. So predicting Bill Belichick, I don't know. Bucks open at the Sixers tonight. You intrigued with that matchup at all?
I like when Antetokounmpo plays head-to-head against Embiid, and Antetokounmpo usually wins. Lakers and Clippers tonight. What are you most interested in seeing?
Kawhi's return to the court. That's what I'm most interested in seeing by far. Kevin Durant bought a Major League Pickleball team. What do you make of that? Is that a good idea?
Pickleball is the scourge of American society. It's a place for Ben Simmons to land when he isn't at the NBA. Last one, college football tonight, Virginia at Georgia Tech. Who you got?
Yeah, the Wahoos, Tone. I root for the Wahoos, so I got them in this game. 2-4 versus 3-3.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now, here's SportsCenter.
Do you play pickleball? Have you ever seen pickleball?
No.
Have you ever seen it? It's like on a small court. It's
No.
Yeah, it's next to golf courses. They make